everyone, and welcome to my podcast In Conversation with Mary, just Hage Matmatali in association with Pixel Bite Productions. Over the past few years, Australia has seen an amazing rise in diversity across its political landscape. Many intellectual individuals from various multicultural backgrounds have stepped into leadership roles. One among them is Sahana Ramesh. So Sahana is the councillor at Wyndham City Council. She is a dedicated community leader with a strong focus on enhancing local engagements and supporting multiple diverse initiatives. With a background in advocacy and collaboration, she strives to create inclusive environments that empower residents. Sahana is committed to fostering positive change and representing the interests of all community members. Through this podcast, we are going to delve into Sahana's journey from India to Australia and her inspiration into entering the public life. With no further ado, I would like to welcome my guest today, the Councillor of Wyndham City Council, our dear Sahana Ramesh. Namaskara, Sahana. Hegidira?
Thank you, Mary. Namaskara. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you so much. We've been trying to get you on our podcast for quite some time, and I'm so glad that we're having this conversation here today. Sahana, to begin with, can you please tell our viewers something about yourself, where you come from, what you do?
I was born in Karnataka, in a place called Tumkur, which is about 60 kilometers north of Bangalore. I moved to Australia. I think my journey in Australia is 14 years old. I've had the privilege to study, work, and start my businesses here. I've called Wyndham home for the past 14 years. I've been involved and I've worked around in different parts of the world, but I've always gravitated back towards coming back to Melbourne as my home base, and Wyndham more so. I've got a lot of attachment towards this community here. It makes you feel like home. So that's pretty much a little bit about me, I guess.
That's nice. Thanks for sharing that. What inspired you to take up a role within the public office?
So I think my inspiration actually stems from, it goes back a long time ago. So as a child, I think I saw my uncle being involved in politics and I was very curious. And as I grew older, I could see some of the pitfalls that were there for, some of the barriers that were there for women to enter politics at that time. This is about 20 years ago.
So this is way back in India.
This is way back in India.
Yeah.
And then I was always interested. He was a very passionate guy. He was working with his local communities. He was helping his village, in many different ways. I remember he built temples for them.
Wow.
He funded a lot of their education, kids' education and needs and basic needs and things like that. And I thought it was a very noble way to contribute to the community, right? And that was there in me, I guess, growing up. This was probably when I was back in 2017, 2018, I think. And that was when that real switch happened. And I had spent a significant amount of time in Australia, and the community had done a lot for me. And, when opportunities are created for you or given to you, I guess it's also very important to do that back for other people. You need to create those opportunities for other people. And that was, I think, one of my main drivers. I wanted to do something for the community, give back to the community. Yes, that had done so much for me.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So have you faced any challenges as an Indian origin councillor here in Australia? Have you faced any challenges as that?
So I guess being from a minority community in Australia, there's always challenges in terms of underrepresentation, right? It's always, and being new age migrants, as, whether it's South Asians, Southeast Asians, etc., we still have a lot of work to do in terms of assimilation within the community itself for the people that came before us to understand, what our needs are. That's one aspect of being a representative from culturally and linguistically diverse community, and that's how they sort of classify us here.
True.
And the other part is also the expectations, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a lot of expectations from our community as well as the broader community that weighs you down a little bit. But I guess it's in a, you take it in a positive way and you continue to serve and do what you can. That's another thing, that I can think of. But in terms of challenges, yes, just in general, educating the broader community about, the community that you represent as such. They look at you as an Indian, and rising above that stereotype.
Yes.
and actually showing them the value that we as people from South Asian, Southeast Asian, other minority communities, the value that we can bring to the table is certainly a journey that's in progress.
Yes.
I want to continue to do that. I want to represent us in good light, and I want to show the value that we can add to the broader society. And I'm sure a lot of the people, whether it's the state, federal government, they recognize the importance of us. But
Correct.
but I guess that reinforcement is still sort of needed.
True. And we need leaders like you to enforce that, isn't it, within the community?
We do need voices. We absolutely need voices and representation that will, that'll put a sort of a face to the community, and
What are your top priorities as a councillor for the Wyndham City area, if you could name some?
So I'm actually reaching towards the end of my term now, but I can just run through what I've done over the past 4 years. Please. Is my priority. So I was absolutely very passionate about social cohesion, making sure that the community, whether it's different groups. So for example, I was representing Point Cook. Point Cook was named as the most multicultural suburb in Australia. People speaking 80 languages live in that suburb, right?
That's amazing.
Which is an amazing, vibrant community.
Definitely.
So making sure that some of that social cohesion exists, right? And that was one of very much my passion areas. And being a local business owner here as well, so supporting local businesses and working towards a local economy that can thrive, right?
True.
So that was one of my main things that I was always trying to find opportunities, whether it was through supporting the Spark initiative, where we were incubating startups locally.
Nice.
And helping small businesses actually grow, giving them the basic knowledge that they need to be successful, the resources and tools that they need to be successful.
Did you run workshops then for them?
Yeah, well, I didn't exactly run workshops as such, but those were the initiatives that I was very passionate about, driving through the council. So of course we had experts that were helping the businesses that were much more equipped than me to impart that knowledge, but these were initiatives that we drove as councillors, governing the city, right? So that was one of my passion areas as well. So sustainability is something, I care a lot about the environment. So sustainability was something that I was passionately looking for projects. So whether it was looking at solar lighting projects as an example, right? Moving away. And we also had looking at how we increase the tree cover in Wyndham, because Wyndham's got one of the lowest tree covers in all of the growth areas in Melbourne. Right. So things like that. So those were the things that I always thought about. Healthcare is a massive gap here in Wyndham area, right? There's almost about 150 babies born each week, and we don't have the infrastructure to support people in need, whether it's emergency. I've heard of emergency wait times being more than 12, 18 hours for people that actually need care. So things like that, whether advocate, those are obviously not directly things that we control as council, but through advocacy to the right levels of government, achieving the right outcomes becomes really important. So focusing on those types of things, right? And if I do get re-elected again, and I have the opportunity to serve this community again, then I will be thinking about these priorities, as well as working on things that I have learned over the last 4 years.
Yeah, true.
And listening to the community as well, and trying to see where the issues are and where the need is. And I would act accordingly.
Nice. You've been a strong advocate for multiculturalism, isn't it? So, can you share about the programs that you've introduced to foster social solidarity? This is kind of related to the previous question, but if you could elaborate on that, please.
So multiculturalism absolutely is one of my core values. There's many different ways in which we can promote social cohesion, right? There's multicultural events where a number of different communities have been invited to that are run by the council itself to promote that dialogue, open dialogue, to understand, yes, there are differences. We may speak differently, we may do different things, but there's a lot of commonality that brings us together as individuals and human beings, as many different roles that we play in our life. So that's one of the main I guess ways where we were trying to bring people together. And education. So educating, running a number of programs for ethnic communities to help them integrate better into the existing communities that we have. Mm-hmm. So that I have seen being extremely successful.
That's nice.
So those are some of the things, I guess, which absolutely build much better, much more open sort of conversations between different representatives from various ethnic backgrounds. When they come together and have conversations, it makes a big difference in keeping that harmony in the community.
Yeah, that's nice. Sahana, the youth forms a huge section within the Wyndham area. So what are the council's plans to support them and their growth and development?
Yes, absolutely. Right. The youth are our future. So the council absolutely invests a lot for the youth within the Wyndham area. There's a dedicated youth services department within the council itself that caters to the needs of youth, educating them, providing them culturally safe spaces to engage, learn, educate them, etc. And they also run leadership programs for some of the youth within our in our areas as well. There's opportunities. I've known of programs where there's opportunities. They give them platforms where they can volunteer within some of the organizations within the area, so that they understand whether it's business, volunteering, what it means to give, and what are some of the initiatives that are being played out in this area. And one of the really great things that I think I'll mention is there's the Street Surfer bus that is there, that is dedicated to youth, right? And there was a lot of thought put into how that all came together, and they go to different areas in Wyndham. So they might park outside the Encore Center where there's the youth services team that sits there, or community centers across Wyndham, and they give them information that they need, to live a healthy lifestyle, encouraging them to do the right things. Nice. And there are lots of there's a lot that's been invested in absolutely in the youth in this area.
So with the youth, you said that you have a youth bus that provides youth services to the people within Wyndham. So have you received any positive feedback from the youth? I'm just curious to know.
So we attend these youth services awards events each year, and
nice.
And it's acknowledging these very talented young people when they're contributing to the community in different ways, and whether it is through thought leadership, if they're volunteering. There's many different aspects of it. I think there are many different categories that fall into it, and that's probably when I have heard of some direct feedback and how engaged and happy they are. And I feel, absolutely, I can see that they receive it in a positive way, and it's very important to have them engaged, and that engagement coming from them. It's fantastic. There's a lot of participation that I can see from different groups, different ethnic communities. As well, there's a mix of different youth that are part of it, and I think generally, I think they're very positive about it.
Beautiful. If I can ask, what does the future hold for Sahana as a councillor?
So as I said, I'm sort of at the end of my first term, and I was first time elected councillor.
Yeah.
So whether I win the election or not, I will continue to serve my community. I will continue to volunteer, be involved in ways that are possible. And if I do get re-elected, it would absolutely be an honor to serve and represent the community again. And I will continue to advocate for the needs of my community. I will continue to make sure that this place is livable, it's inclusive,
Safe.
There's a voice for communities and people that feel underrepresented. I will continue to make this community a vibrant community.
And a better place to live.
A better place to live, absolutely.
So people are listening to our podcast. I'm sure that we need strong leaders, true leaders like Sahana, who is willing to serve the community no matter what happens in the election. And we all will root that you will definitely, win it and serve the community so passionately. I think so we need people like you, Sahana, because I think so there is a dearth of people, who is so passionate. People would say, oh, I love to do this for the community and do that. They have all this interest in their mind. Thinking about it is one thing and putting it into action is another thing. And you do both. And that's where you make a difference, Sahana.
Well, thank you. You're very kind.
No, that's true. Because 4 years in this business is not easy.
Yes.
And you've proved your worth time and time again. So people are watching you. And they already know your worth. So there's no doubt that you're going to win. So, yeah. Just coming back to our question. So, who is your inspiration, Sahana, and why?
I have taken inspiration from a lot of people along the way.
Yeah.
I have mostly been inspired by people that have shown resilience in the face of adversity, right? And a lot of the time, women that have overcome obstacles and challenges in their own personal lives as well as, professional lives and everything else that's expected of them. And I draw a lot of inspiration when they overcome all of that and they still want to make a positive change in the world. I guess that's kind of where my inspiration comes from. There's not a single person that I can name. And I've also drawn a lot of inspiration from my parents in a way. And they've taught me a lot about perseverance and hard work. And my husband as well, right? I draw a lot of inspiration from. He's an amazing guy. Honesty, his best trait is how humble he is and how honest he is. And that continues to sort of inspire me to live my truth every day. And that's I guess one of the things that I'd like to say.
That's nice. So Sahana, as a counselor and a community leader, what advice would you like to give the youth out there, especially the ones who are coming from multicultural backgrounds and who'd like to step into leadership roles?
My advice for them is very simple. Believe in yourself and don't be afraid to take up space. Your background and your experiences are your strengths and they give you a unique perspective that is absolutely valuable. Don't shy away from leadership opportunities even though they seem daunting or scary at the outset. And get involved in your local community, build relationships, and be willing to listen and learn. And that's very, very important when you come to community work. Remember that leadership is about service. It's about making a difference, no matter how small or how big, in another person's life.
That's so true. That's so true. Because one is wanting to be a leader, and then the other thing is taking that first step.
Yes.
And as you rightly said, I really like what you said. Get involved in community work. Do what you can to the community.
Yes.
I think so that is where you can start growing. Right?
Absolutely. That grassroots work that is required becomes very important. And people value that. People will never forget, when you've done something nice for them. It's as simple as that.
That's right. Okay, so we've come to the end of our questions, but I think we should have a fun segment as well to end it in a nice note.
Okay.
I'll ask you fast 5 questions, Sahana.
Sure.
So whatever comes to your mind, it's called fast 5 for a reason. Okay. You need to just be spontaneous and tell me what you think, right?
Okay.
Morning or an evening person?
Morning.
Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Favorite holiday destination?
Maldives.
What's your favorite hobby?
spending time in nature.
Amazing. And what's something that a person doesn't know about you?
That I cook well.
Thank you so much, Sahana, for sharing all your valuable insights with us. And you're an amazing person, and getting to know you at a personal level, and your dedication towards community service and being a strong advocate for multiculturalism is truly, truly inspiring. And I'm sure people who are watching this podcast can see what an amazing leader you've been, you are, and you'll continue to be. So thank you so much, and we wish you all the very best, and sky's the limit for you, Sahana. All the very best, and thanks again for sharing the space with us and having this conversation.
Thank you for having me, Mary, and thank you for your kind words.
Thank you.